Welcome to the Salt Strong Fishing Podcast. Salt Strong has been helping saltwater anglers catch more fish in less time for 10 years and is now the largest and most trusted saltwater fishing community in America. If you want to catch more saltwater fish, then keep listening. If you want to speed up your fish catching results even faster, then join the private insider community at saltstrong.com. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
The future rod, reel, bait. Everything we want to talk about of snapper and grouper fishing. Hey there, everybody. Joe Simons, like diamonds.
Hey, Luke Simons.
Like diamonds. We're talking about nearshore and offshore fishing. We do a lot of inshore fishing talk here, as you probably know. We've done a little bit. It's usually a few times a year we'll really get hot and heavy into some nearshore and offshore fishing. And we just got back from a trip, and it was pretty epic. I'll show you just a couple pictures. If you're listening, you'll have to go and look at this. But that was one of the many fish that Luke had caught. We all caught a lot of fish. Luke seemed to catch a lot of the bigger fish. I think probably some of the biggest fish, certainly the biggest overall haul in terms of 4 or 5 really big ones. And it was done on something that shocked everyone in the boat. It shocked everyone at Hubbard's Marina. It shocked all of the 30 Salt Strong Insider presidents we had on board. And heck, it might even shock Luke. Maybe you were that confident it was going to work that well. But wanted to talk about it because I think it can save you a ton of time, ton of money. When we got back to the dock, the Hubbard's guys, I mean, these are people who live on these boats, essentially work on these boats, going out to the middle grounds every week. And they're like, I never seen anything like that. And it was just so simple. It's probably should save you money, should save you time. You don't have to worry about all the live bait. It was quite the game changer. And we've proven this works everywhere, right? We've done this all over the place on Rex, and it's surprised lots of people, from fishing with guides in the Florida Keys for permit using a similar thing to Marco Island offshore catching big gag grouper. So it's crazy. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so I'll give the backstory. So for anybody who's been watching this, at least I personally make a lot of videos, and my favorite ones are always ones where I can show an actual test, like a test of one hypothesis, try to minimize the variables, but see if one different thing can outperform something else. And so we had this trip planned for chapter presidents where we got on a big boat. We went 100 miles out, over 100 miles out. I don't know. I think somebody said we went 150, but anyhow, we were in deep water. And so my hypothesis was that these inshore lures should work just as good offshore as they do inshore and nearshore as well. So I took some of my favorite nearshore lures. And Joe said baits earlier, so I used 100% lures. And
that was just a headline to get people to click to watch this.
Yeah, we do. So I didn't, and with Joe and I were like, we don't have much offshore gear. And we were talking about, I have one offshore rod and we're talking about buying another one. And they're expensive. Like to get at least a decent offshore rod, it's expensive. So like, Joe, okay, I have one offshore rod that's good. You take that one. I'm going to throw lures, and I'm just going to bring my normal inshore setups, like 3,000 to 4,000 size reels, which everybody thought was a dumb idea. But when I thought about it, okay, we're in 150 to 180 feet of water. Even these 4,000 size reels, here's the exact one I took. Even these 4,000 size reels and 3,000 size reels, I caught some keeper red snapper. Granted, it wasn't seasoned, but I caught some plenty keeper size fish on 3,000 size reels. Even these 3,000 and 4,000 size reels will hold 300 yards of braid. And so not a single grouper or anything that we're targeting, like a bottom fish, can run out 200 yards of line, right? 100 feet down, 200 plus yards still in the spool. You're not going to get spooled unless you hook into like a giant wahoo. At that point, you hold on, never let it get spooled. You just hold on to the spool and break it off on purpose. So anyhow, and we just recently got some jig heads for the prawn lures that are 2 ounces. And so I was thinking, okay, I have this thin braid. I should be able to get down to the bottom with 2 ounces of weight. Because typically on nearshore reefs, in 30 to 50 feet of water, which is where I've done a ton of fishing, and it's phenomenal in that depth. But I use 3/4 ounce to 1 ounce. It says, okay, I'm doubling the weight on the 1 ounce, and I just have to give it a little bit more time. It'll eventually get down there. And I was surprised that I could actually feel the lure hitting the bottom in 150 plus, because I was using a sensitive rod. Right? Had I been using the broomsticks that everybody else was using, I couldn't feel a darn thing. But I had this is the brand new slot machine. It's our medium heavy slot machine rod. And so I was able to feel everything. I could actually feel the strikes. Like it really felt like I was inshore or near shore fishing in that deep water. And so as soon as I could feel the bottom, I knew I had a really good shot. And at night, so we started fishing at midnight. And another theory I wanted to test was we have these glow lures. And I was just thinking, man, like these offshore fish, they can't be that scared of lures, right? It's not like inshore or even bass fishing where pretty much any smart fish, like any smart bass inshore, has seen probably every lure ever created. They get a ton of pressure and they're actually scared of lures. They're scared of things that look different, that are smaller than them. These offshore fish probably haven't seen many small things that are smaller than them that they're afraid of. And so if only they could see something small moving around, they'll probably hit it, was my theory. And that worked shockingly well. So I was leading like all the main categories all night long because I took the glow shrimp. We have these prawn USAs made up in the glow color, and they were all over it. That was when people were starting to get mad at me.
Yeah, everyone hated him. So like we're catching a few little small snapper and stuff. We got 30 people, and everyone's got everything from live pinfish to cut bait to squid to shrimp, live shrimp. I mean, we had everything you could possibly imagine in terms of the best baits, live bait and dead bait. And we weren't catching anything big. And Luke just one after another is hauling in these monster fish. And even the captains there were just like, what are you doing? Like it became part of like, oh, here's Luke again with it. They were destroying that glow in the dark prawn.
Yeah, check this out. This was like a 25-inch red grouper, and this was the biggest mangrove snapper I've ever seen in my life. It was I didn't really actually measure. I think it was like 24, 25 inches. But yeah, all hit the glow in the dark lure at night. It was insane. And again, it's just very simple strategy, right? Knowing that saltwater fish are more aggressive than freshwater fish, and just simply catching their eye should help ensure that you get some strikes. Again, it's all about just getting a lure down that has good action, and it's very important, the equipment with this type of stuff. You have to be able to feel bottom. Like if I wasn't on the bottom, I wasn't catching fish, and so it was just one of those tests where I didn't have much to lose. I think everybody doubted me, and I knew it. I knew I'd be able to catch something decent, but I was thinking, man, if this actually does work, that'd be really cool. And I was very surprised on how well it works.
Yeah, because we know it works. I mean, we have countless videos of it working in that 40 to 60 foot range, but never been 100 plus before like that. And so everyone else just is using 6-ounce leads. I was using 6-ounce leads, and Hubbards. I mean, they do this for a living. They've been doing this for 90 plus years, and like, you really need 6 ounces to really get it down there and keep it down there with all the currents and stuff. And Luke's doing it with 2 ounces. Like everyone was just blown away. And I did it once. I was like, let me try that. And so we switched rods for a second. I actually caught a nice, I think it was a red snapper. It was a red grouper.
Oh yeah.
It was a just undersized red grouper on my very first cast with it. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and one of our members, he really wanted to catch a red grouper, and I by far had the most keeper red grouper of anybody. So he's like, hey, like, can I try this out? And literally my arms were getting tired. Like it was granted, it's a workout. We were fishing for 20 hours, and it's a workout to jig for that long, obviously. And so Bill Olson, one of our members down on the east coast of Florida, he was trying out. I just taught him. I switched to the 3,000, so I had a 3,000 size reel as well. That's what I wanted to see. How that performed. And so I gave him this one with a 4,000, and check out the one he caught. He caught a 29-inch red grouper on the same thing after like 10 minutes of like a tutorial on using it. And then he got another keeper red grouper. So he had the biggest red grouper of the boat, and me and him were the only ones that had more than one keeper red grouper. And had he been using the prawn the whole time, he would have been obviously caught a lot more. So yeah, I was definitely blown away with how effective it actually was.
Well, let's talk about the full rig, because the rod is obviously pretty important as well. You still need a stiff enough rod to be able to pull a big fish like that up and make sure they don't rock you. What was the full setup?
Well, rod is crucial. I'll show you this one. It's closer. So the rod I think is I would say is the most important part of it. You have to be able to feel bottom. If you don't know you're on the bottom, then you're almost wasting your time. All those fish, they're bottom fish. They're going to be like 90, I'm sure like 98% of the feeding is going to be on the bottom. And really, I guess it's really the whole setup. So back to the lure, this is a unique rig, and these are custom jig heads that we make. We make some round, some in a football shape. The football shape did the best. The round one still worked. The key though was getting it on the bottom. And so with this rig though, it can be rigged weedless. So now I'm able to confidently bounce around the bottom, even if there's ledges. When I'm doing near shore reefs, I go through the heart of the reef where there's the most gnarly stuff of all, knowing that hardly any lures that people actually use can actually get in the structure without getting snagged. So those fish that actually live in the structure, they're not used to seeing anything that's moving near them that is actually dangerous, right? Because everything else gets snagged. So I basically used, again, I've got enough weight to get down without getting snagged. I had a rod that was sensitive enough where even with all that line out and a bunch of scope of the line, I could still feel the thump of the lure hitting the bottom. That's crucial. If you don't have a nice high performance rod, like if you're using one of those rods that market themselves as unbreakable, unbreakable is cool. That also means you can't feel anything. This rod is definitely breakable, but it's purposely designed in a way where you have the best feel possible. We don't even coat it with paint. Paint just adds extra unnecessary things on the rod that deadens the feel. But if this gets shipped, right, if you're not one to take care of your rods, you might want to get this. But if you want ultimate feel, a slot machine rod, and this medium heavy one proved to be plenty strong enough for these big fish, these big bottom fish, but also sensitive enough, most importantly, to feel that lure bouncing bottom. And then for the reel, again, I was using these are some Saltese reels. They're very nice reels. You don't have to go this upscale. The rod is the most important. Right? Anytime you're using lures, the rod is by far the most important. And then get whatever reel fits the budget. So I was using the Saltese. It's the 4,000 for the main rig with 30-pound braid, just in case I got stuck into the bottom. This rod is only rated for 20 pounds. So I set the drag as if this was 20 pounds, but I used 30-pound braid. Again, just in case a grouper got me up under the ledge, having that thicker line, slightly thicker line would help increase the odds that I was able to get it out.
And I'd say like a BGMQ 4000 could maybe be very similar and save a little bit of money.
Yeah, absolutely. A BGMQ or even a BG 3000. It's like the BG is a unique reel where it's sized differently. It doesn't matter what the brand is, but you just want to have a reel that holds, say, 300 yards of 20-pound braid. All right, that will be a pretty good. That would be a very safe bet that you have plenty of line. And as far as the drag, right, you don't need to have a reel. This reel probably has definitely over 20 pounds of drag. I don't even know. But if you're using 20-pound braid, which is, again, you need to set the drag based on the rod's power. For 20-pound braid, you only really need, I was only using 30% of 20 pounds. So I was only using, what's the math there on that? 6 pounds of drag. So you don't need a ton of drag. Again, your biggest, most important thing is to be able to feel what's happening on the bottom with the rod. And definitely get braid. No mono for this. You won't be able to feel anything. Get braid and go as thin as you comfortably can. Again, I started with 30 because I knew there's some giant fish out there. We're at the middle grounds, which is famous for giant fish. Typically, when I'm doing near shore fishing, I'm using this setup, and that has 20-pound braid. And I've caught countless keeper cobia, overslot snook, overslot redfish, keeper grouper with this setup, and it's plenty strong. Actually, sorry, man, I was already holding the 3,000, but yeah, the 3,000 size setup is all you need. And once you go out to the 150 plus, then you might want to go to the 4,000, but I really don't think you need anything bigger than 4,000 personally.
Yeah, I mean, you proved it. I mean, I personally would go 4,000 just in case you get that really monster fish, and but yeah, you proved it could work. So what about leader line?
Leader line for the first setup, the one that I was using most of the time, and I started at night, so I knew that was going to be my best chance of getting something big. I went with 40-pound mono, no fluoro. As you probably know, I can't stand fluoro. It's provably worse and way more expensive. So I just using regular Andy mono, and I got about like a arm's length amount. So I had about 4 or 5 feet of mono, and I just went straight 40, and I got the job done. The next day, I switched to the other setup with This one has the 20-pound braid and then 30-pound mono, and I never got broke off by anything. This is what I caught my biggest triggerfish ever with. I caught multiple red snapper that would have been keeper. I caught one keeper red grouper that was a smaller keeper, but a keeper nonetheless, and a lot of vermilion snapper and a bunch of other stuff. A lot of small red grouper, but anyhow, this 30-pound leader proved to be good as well. Most of these fish were caught in the corner of their mouth, and so a cool thing about this setup is it has this big. It's a 5/0 extra wide gap hook, plus the weight that's above it. So in many instances, I should actually have to say all instances, the leader wasn't really damaged at all from the fish. So the 30-pound, if the fish were finicky, 30-pound would surely be plenty, but 40-pound is probably a safer bet to make sure that you don't get broken off under a lead.
And how many times did you get jammed, like meaning stuck in a rock or whatever?
So I got stuck twice in 20 hours, but both times when I was going to just break it off, I was doing the whole line thing where pull it out. It's called the slingshot, where you get the line with your finger, point the rod toward the bottom, slingshot it, and just to get that vibration down. And that didn't work. There was, I think, so much line out with all that water drag didn't work. And then I went to break it off, and it ended up popping right out both times. So I lost 0 rigs in 20 hours of fishing because I was using a weedless setup. So
Reminds me
that was a surprise too. I thought I'd go through a lot of gear, and I really didn't.
It reminds me of that new boomerang I bought. Completely forgot how to use a boomerang. It came back to me. Yeah, I told you every week I'm going to bring you a new dad joke. So
yeah, that was going to be a bad pun.
I fit that one in there. Yeah, that was surprising because I think with the live bait versions and dropping those 6 ounces down, those big leads, I think most everyone got stuck a couple times. I saw a few break off. So yeah, I mean, you were just in the same boat as everyone else. You were actively working, right? Because we were basically all of us just dropping straight down, and Luke was able to cover more ground as well, right? So he's making some longer casts. He's popping it off the ground the whole way back to the boat while we're fishing just directly below the boat, and so. It did have some pretty cool advantages there, and obviously it worked, especially at night. That glow in the dark prawn, and this is the big prawn, by the way. If you're on our website, all that stuff Luke said can be bought at fishstrong.com. Actually, it can only be bought at fishstrong.com. And the prawn has a prawn and then a prawn junior. It was the prawn big boy that, it's just a bigger profile. Obviously, I think when you're down there, you want to have something big and in their face. And man, they were just all over that glow in the dark version.
Yeah, so all the big grouper and the bigger mango snapper were caught on the prawn original. I did take the smaller ones out as well, just in case, right? Because I really want to catch the only fish yet that I haven't caught out there that I actually want to catch is a hogfish, and I know they eat smaller stuff, so I brought the smaller prawns hoping to get out the hogfish. But it's like Joe was on a triggerfish bite, and Joe was right next to me. And he was on a good triggerfish bite, and I heard one of the deckhands say, "Hey, like for triggerfish, get like a small, like smaller the better. So get like a small piece of squid or whatever." And I look what you were getting, like a small piece of squid plus a shrimp, and you're kind of doing a combo. And I catch a bunch of them. So then I was like, "Hey," and my arms were hurting from the bigger fish. I was like, let me get the lighter setup. That's what I went with the 3,000 size reel, 20-pound braid, same 2 ounce weight. But I put the prawn junior on here, even though it looked a little bit funny because the size of the hook is almost the size of the whole lure itself. With that smaller prawn, that's when I caught the triggerfish. Caught a really nice triggerfish. I caught a bunch of red snapper still, multiple keeper size red snapper, even on that little prawn junior. So that was a big surprise of mine that I didn't think that it would be possible to rig that prawn junior on this big hook and get results. And that was one of my favorite catches of that triggerfish.
Vermilion snapper as well?
Yeah, a bunch of vermilions on it. Those are delicious too. That was the first one I've eaten. Very tasty. So again, and Joe mentioned it too. I should have said it earlier. A really big advantage for using lures over bait is just same as it is for inshore is covering water, right? Covering ground. For traditional bottom fishing, you're going straight down. The boat's anchored, so your bait is basically sitting in one spot. So you really only have a chance of catching fish in that small little circle. with lures, I was casting. I was always making. I didn't want to get tangled up with everybody, so I was always casting. Figure out which way the current's going, and I would cast a good ways up current, and then let it fall. Right about 30 seconds was the count, and then I would basically bounce bottom from wherever it landed back to the boat. So I bounce bottom. As soon as it started getting close to either Joe's setup or the person next to me, then I would reel it up and do it again. And so I could cast one angle and then do the next angle and do the next angle. And so I was basically covering a very wide range of zone that they couldn't touch. And I had the ability to do that. And again, that was a big reason why I was able to get them out a lot of fish, because I wasn't just sitting in one spot. I was constantly covering ground. And then once I got the general range, then I would do like a bomb cast where I would cast as far as I could. And these 2 ounce weights cast a very long distance, and then caught some more fish in that farther range. And that was an advantage too, especially we had a couple of really good spots where like everybody was catching fish, and then eventually you kind of just fished the spot out. And so when we got to that point, that's when I would start bombing. I would start getting out of our range to fish that didn't really know there's danger in the area. And so I was able to elongate the bite by just getting further and further away from the boat. The only problem with going farther away is that it was hard to get a good hook set. I lost a lot of good fish because I got the strike when it was far away, and there's just so much scope in the line, like 100, I don't know how far I was casting, but at least 150 feet. Then it drops down and there's a giant scope in the line. So when I get the strike, I basically have to straighten that line out to get the hook set. And so I missed a lot of fish on that, but it's still fun. Still fun to get strikes.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, the beauty of all that is that you can use that exact same setup for all your inshore stuff on the heavier duty fish. Like, for instance, when we just went fishing with Captain Peter Deeks and we're catching those 40-inch snook, we were literally using that exact same setup. We were using a little bit more heavier duty. Please say the name of the rod again, because it's not the normal.
The slot machine medium heavy rod.
Yep.
And this rod too, this was designed again for ultimate performance. So we took out every possible deterrent to performance, including the paint on the blank. It's raw carbon. So the actual weight of this rod, this is 7.6 rod, right? Actual weight of a 7.6 rod rated up to 20 pounds is only 5 ounces. It's actually 4.94 ounces. So it's just barely under 5 ounces. Most medium power rods are 5 ounces or higher. Although this is medium heavy rod, it is as light or lighter than most medium power rods. So it is very comfortable to fish. You can easily use the same rod to target, just slot size redfish and snook, because it feels, again, it's super comfortable, and that's why I think it's. I would personally rather spend a lot more, spend more money than I typically would by getting a rod that can do both inshore and offshore than to get just like a decent medium, a decent inshore rod and then a decent offshore rod. It'd be a lot better to get something like this, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because like that thing you let me borrow was a accurate reel. I mean, those things are $800 now. Like,
it was Avid, yeah. Accurate.
It was accurate. And then the rod, what's that? Another $500?
It was very expensive. Yeah.
So you have let's just say a $1,200 deep drop. How often have you used that? When was the last time you used that thing?
Been a good 2 years.
Exactly. Whereas you invest in something like this, which still is going to be, it's still a fraction of the $1,200 price you paid, but you can use it all the time. You can use it anytime you're going inshore fishing for heavier duty stuff. I mean, it could be even a smaller tarpon rod. I wouldn't be catching 200 pounders on it, but I mean, heck, maybe you could. Surprise us there as well. But yeah, that was awesome. It was really cool when the Hubbard's guys are coming back and they're literally writing out on the notes of exactly what we just went through here today. They're like, all right, we're buying it like right now. They're like, we're going to take it on every trip. It would save us so much time, and you don't have to worry about all the live bait and all the stuff. You were way more efficient and effective than everyone else on that boat.
Yeah, the deck cams were very impressive. One, his birthday's coming up, and so he was taking notes on the exact rod and the exact reel because he wanted to get it for his birthday. It's fun. It's just to me, it's just so much more rewarding to catch fish with lures. It's more engaging, where I'm constantly be able to feel bottom, and it was a ton of fun. And my personal theory of bottom fishing, especially if the bite isn't on fire, is you're kind of just sitting there waiting on something to happen, where this is more like hunting. where I was like actively hunting for those feeding fish, and I'm able to be strategic on the angles and covering different zones. And then obviously, like when I hit an angle and I caught something, I would sling it right back in there. And in general, there'd be a little group of fish. And then as soon as that angle's out, then I'll go back and keep exploring around. But it was a lot of fun, and I'm still a little bit sore from it though. That was a workout. I've never fished for 20 hours in a row
A little bit sore from that. And a couple things, if you have smart fishing spots, if you're a member, you can go in there to layers, and we have a couple different layers. One is going to be the artificial reefs. If you just want to go try some of this stuff, just near shore, we have, that's just like the Tampa area and like that one's got 52 reefs inside of it. So if I click on it, it's crazy. It's got 48 just inside this one little area. That's one way to do it. The other way is that at the very top, you've got this 3D, the shaded relief. And we have found some really, really crazy sick spots using that. So I'll zoom in to this area that actually has some reefs. I mean, can you see all that? And it's not even getting into my 4K yet, but you can drop a point. You can go to tools and hit waypoints, drop those points, mark them all. You can put them on your fish finder. You can sit there and watch as you're actually out there. So cool what you can see with this app, even on nearshore for going after grouper and snapper here this summer. It seems to be the popular time, and obviously we got a season coming up that I know a lot of people are excited about. So I would try it. It shocked everyone. Everyone on the boat is like, all right, well, why am I even carrying around these? And they're bulky too, right? Those, yours is a little bit lighter, when you start getting these really expensive 2-speed reels and they're super smooth, but you're also paying $800-900 for them. But, I watched some of the guys that were bringing those old massive offshore reels in. I mean, they're just heavy and bulky and a big old broomstick. Yours, even though you're worn out, man, that's so much lighter than what everyone else was using in general.
Yeah. And I guess I think a strategy that would be very effective offshore, and this is what I use near shore. And this is how I actually started doing it, where I trust these prawns. This is by far my favorite lure that I've ever used. I've had most of my personal, for whatever reason, it seems to fool the bigger fish better than anything else. I have most of my personal best fish on this one lure, both inshore and near shore and now offshore. Is as far as offshore fishing, if you're going to anchor, it's crucial to be able to know your exactly what angle you're going to be drifting at. Your I think it's called the anchor coordinates or something like that. I can't remember the term. But anyhow, before you try to just anchor and guess at it, I recommend just trying to guess at what your drift is going to be, and actually do a drift or two and just use lures. Drop down, and as you're drifting, bounce the lure, and then you're going to get your anchor heading, I think is the right term. Then you're going to be able to see what your actual anchor heading is while you're catching fish. Like most people just turn off their boat and kind of just wait, and they're sitting there wasting time. Drop some lures down. Then you can actually make sure they're down there. If there's something down there, usually the best fish were pretty close, like right away. Like the first couple drops were usually the best. So instead of going through all the effort of anchoring and possibly getting it wrong, just drift over the spot while bouncing a lure, and then you're going to get your exact anchor coordinates, and that'll help if you do decide to anchor. That'll help you know exactly what angle to go to. That was why I started doing this near shore, why I started taking the prawns out. I actually fished that exact reef that Joe was showing. I fished it a lot. And it's a very wide reef. And I ended up getting to the point where I never bothered anchoring. I would just simply drift over it and then go around, drift back. And I realized that in different days and different tide cycles, the majority of fish were holding in different sections of that big reef. So it wasn't about having like one spot. They were moving around. And if you're not moving around too, you're never going to know that. So that drift fishing is much better than I ever thought, especially if you're able to use a lure where you're able to, again, feel the bottom. You can actually feel the structure as it's bouncing into it, and most importantly, you can get your anchor heading without having to learn the hard way by getting the bad anchor. And one last benefit of lures too is if you do anchor and you're not directly on top of the structure, no problem, because now you can actually cast out and reach. And if you're 50 feet or 100 feet or whatever away, you can still actually fish it because you can cast and then work the lure over that structure. So I'm even more sold than I ever have been on lures for saltwater fishing. especially offshore. Again, these fish, they're not heavily pressured. They're not naturally scared of stuff smaller than them. And so, to me, it's just a giant advantage to be able to cover more ground quicker, knowing that they're probably going to hit it, whether it's something truly alive or this. And to increase success rate is just put some good scent on it. Like I was using that saltwater slam scent that we had customized with Dr. Juice. I put it on every one of the prawns I dropped, and that seemed to work. I don't know. I can't tell you that the scent worked or not, but the combination of all this stuff again worked much better than I thought it would, especially relative to others. Basically, one guy with lures versus 25 people who were using live and cut bait.
Then I started putting Dr. Juice on my live bait just to give it more scent. And all that can be found at fishstrong.com. Of course, if you're an insider member, you get 20% off. The rod in particular was $100 off, so it pays for your membership. And so we told the guy, I was like, dude, literally just sign up for the club and you're going to save $100 just on the rod alone, not to mention the prawns. He's like, oh, well, no brainer. So I'll repeat that. If you're not a member, or even if you are, you can go buy the slot machine, the heavy duty one, the medium heaven, or the normal medium. They're both $100 off. That more than pays for your membership already right off the bat. And then everything else is just gravy. We're giving away free tackle every month. We got a really big one coming up here soon. I'm not going to spoil it, but probably the biggest and most exciting tackle test. That's where we give free tackle, send it out in the mail for you to test out. Coming up here this month of May. So stay tuned for that. It's normally around the 18th or 20th of the month. Be looking for an email and be in the community to check that out. If you're not a member, go sign up now. Go get this stuff at fishstrong.com. You'll see your discounts are already applied once you're logged in. And if we can help you out in any way, let us know. Luke and I are very active in our private community and giving away free stuff in there. Cameron just announced the latest giveaway. We gave away another $1,200 of just free stuff just for being active in there. So a lot of really cool things happening. And I hope you have a great red snapper group or whatever you're going for nearshore and offshore, but definitely try this out. It really is a game changer. And I've seen the look on people's faces we did it down to the Keys. We've done it in Marco. We did it with Captain Blackneck. Remember, he said the same thing. He's like, dude, I got 400 shrimp, and he's like live shrimp. He's laughing at us. He's like, you're not going to catch squat with that. And by the end, he's like, all right, I want some of the prawns. I'm buying them. So it works.
Yeah, they work. And try the club out. And just in case you're on the fence, just know that we do have a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Like if somehow you don't think you're catching more fish than you ever have before, while also saving money on all the tackle you need, just let us know and we'll give you a full refund. All right, the annual plan, you literally have 365 days to make sure that it actually does work. And so give it a try. Right, the risk is on us. We know you're going to like it. We now have over 50,000 active members, from Texas all the way up north of Virginia.
Well, we'll be at 60,000 by the time this thing goes live.
I guess, close to 60. And so we have 100% confidence that you're going to succeed with it. So all the risk is on us. Just take us up on the challenge, and we'll look forward to helping you out. And we have the tools. That software is amazing. Plus the education and obviously the lures and gear with all the details on how to use it. So it is there for you to take advantage of.
Mm-hmm. Cool, guys. We appreciate you big time. Comment down below if you have any questions, and make sure to go to fishstrong.com, get all of that tackle and gear. And can't wait to see all your fish picks in the private community. Talk to you on the next episode.
Want more fishing tips, shortcuts, and tools so you can catch more fish per trip? Then head over to saltstrong.com now and join the movement. Tight lines, and thanks for listening.